I bring a lot of issues to the table that I feel our side is not talking enough about, if at all. For example, the number one social problem in America, by far, is the epidemic not of COVID, but of fatherlessness. 70% of black kids today enter the world without a father in the home, married to the mother, up from 25% back in 1965. Now 25% of white kids enter the world today without a father in the home, married to the mother. And the stats are clear. Even Barack Obama once cited them. If you're raised without a dad, you're 5 times more likely to be poor and commit crime, 9 times more likely to drop out of school, and 20 times more likely to end up in jail. What's happened? In the mid-60s, with I think the best of intentions, a Democrat named Lyndon Johnson launched what he called the War on Poverty. And since then, we have incentivized women to marry the government and incentivized men to abandon their financial and moral responsibility. You know, when I say this to people, the pushback I get is, well, there are lots of things that are going on, systemic racism, poverty. Here's the problem. If you look at a young black male aged 10 to 43, that's young to me because I'm 71 years old. A young black man in that demo is 13 times more likely to be murdered than a young white man, same demo. Young black man, real young, 19 and under, the number one cause of preventable death is homicide, almost always at the hands of another young black male. Same demo for whites, the number one cause of preventable death is unintentional deaths. That includes drug overdoses, automobile accidents, drownings. It's not until they get to number 4 that death is the cause. In America, 60% of the shootings, the robberies, and the homicides are committed by black people, often against other black people. Of the homicides in this country, half of them are black victims, almost all killed by other blacks. How do you explain that if it isn't for the absence of fathers? Are you prepared to say black people are just genetically inclined to commit more crime? I doubt it. And the go-to reaction often is poverty and systemic racism. Here's the problem. 1940, when there was blatant racism, this is before Brown versus Board of Education, before the Civil Rights Act of 64, KKK was still alive and well, 87% of blacks lived under the poverty line. Now it's about 14%.
Wow.
You can't blame it on poverty. You can't blame it on racism. It is the breakdown of the nuclear intact family, and neither side is talking about it. The left doesn't talk about it because they caused it with the welfare state, and our side does not talk about it because if you're white, you'll be accused of dissing single moms who are heroically raising these kids, or you'll be accused of being a racist, or if you're black, you'll be accused, as I was by the LA Times, of being the black face of white supremacy. Nobody's talking about that. I am.
What are the reasons, if your statistics are right, what are the reasons that you think fathers aren't in the home?
As I said, it's because
If your statistics are right, really, Charlamagne? It's not his statistics. These are facts. If your statistics are right. Man, if you don't get let's keep watching.
The mid-60s, Lyndon Johnson launched what he called the War on Poverty. In Charlamagne, literally, they sent social workers door to door in the inner city. I remember this. Advising women of the availability of welfare provided there was no man in the house. It created an economic incentive for women to marry the government. Same thing with whites. In 1965, 8% of whites entered the world without a father in the home, married to the mother. Now it's about 25%, also up threefold. Look at census data, 1910, 1920, 1930, in places like Milwaukee, Chicago, Philadelphia, a young black kid was slightly more likely to be brought into a world with a father in the home, married to the mother, than a young white kid. We have incentivized this kind of bad behavior, and it's had a disproportionately bad effect on the black community.
Let me ask you a question. What do white people do wrong, Larry Elder?
What do you mean, what do white people do?
Here we go. Here we go. Why can't we just focus on the black issues now to solve the problem we have in the black community? And not bring in white people this, white people that. White people have their own problems. I guess what he's trying to do now, he's trying to superimpose the whole white man devil is keeping the black man down and it's white people's fault and all this nonsense. These are the enemy, guys. See, this Breakfast Club people. These are the enemy of the black community. Because they try to tell black people the reason you can't be successful is because there's this white boogeyman somewhere trying to stop you from being successful. That no matter what you do, you can't be successful because white people are holding you back. What they should be telling black people is giving them solutions, ways they can make it in spite of the system. Like, oh, fine, the system is bad, fine. But this is how we can do it. This is how we can do it. Do we have racism problem? Yes. Do we have police brutality issues? Yes. On the depth chart, it's not even top 10 of the issues we have as black people. What? We kill ourselves more than. Just stop this. Stop this, man. What about white people? What white people have their own problems. Let's deal with our own issues. What? White people are not walking around thinking about you. People have their own issues to deal with. It's a class problem. It's not a white versus black or purple versus pink. It's a class issue. The problem in America is classism. And black people are having it harder because we're at the bottom, we're the poorest. We're at the bottom of the totem pole. We should try and look for solutions to elevate ourselves. Instead of telling young black people why they can't make it, teach them how they can make it. If it was Asian people that were at the bottom of the poverty line in America, they would be having all these problems too. Tired of this whole black this, white that. Stop it. Stop it. We're all in this together. It's a class problem.
I'm not worried about white people. I'm worried about what's going on with us.
But if there's systemic racism in this country, which we know it is.
No, I don't say there is. You say there is. I don't believe that.
Oh, you don't believe there's
No, there
systemic
used to
racism?
be, obviously. Tell me what you think the number one systemic example.
Black Africans that go to America to study come out in flying colors, even more than the black Americans over there. Nigerians that go to America, like the top graduates in their fields, they're the most successful. Are they not black? Yes. It's a culture issue. It's a culture problem. In America, we, the blacks here, this same Breakfast Club promote degeneracy in the black culture. That's what they promote. They promote it as black culture. But you can't build a community of degenerate culture, of gang culture, promiscuous culture. You cannot. These people, we have to stop listening to them. They are the problem.
Example of systemic racism is in America.
Oh man, there's so many.
Just give me the most important one you think.
At the top of mind, I'll probably maybe say mass incarceration. Maybe.
Really? During the Great Depression, when 50% of black adults were unemployed, you didn't have this kind of mass incarceration. It's the breakdown of the family. There's a direct.
I'm not going to.
It all boils down to the family. Charity begins at home. It all goes back to the family. It all goes back there. That's where it all begins. Your foundation. Oh man, it's the foundation. You can't build a house on shaky grounds. If the foundation is not solid, the house won't stand. It's the foundation, the household. Larry Elder is talking about the problem in the black community, how we can start fixing it. This guy, Charlemagne, that's bleached himself to oblivion, is talking about, what about white people? What about this? What about that? Victim mentality versus solution-oriented mentality. We have to be solution-oriented thinkers. Tell people they can make it in spite of whatever adversities is happening in their lives. Not, oh, you can't make it because of the adversity going on in your life.
I agree with the family part. I'm a black man who is a father to his children. I'm a happily married black man to a black woman. So I'm never going to argue with that part, you know, but I just feel like everything is black with you. Black is wrong. Black people do this and black people do that. And when I asked you what white people do wrong, you said you're not worried about white people at all.
I'm talking about the damage, disproportionate damage going on in the black community. For example, look at these smash and grabs that are taking place in Los Angeles where I live. There's a suburb called Glendale where at a mall recently, a mob of 30 to 40 people, they had masks on, but one guy got popped. He was black. I think most of those who were doing this were black. And in recent years and times, there have been a number of these in places like Chicago, places like New York. If I were involved in something like that, Charlemagne, I grew up with a dad, just as you're raising your own children. I would have been more afraid of my father than I would about the cops catching me. These kids are afraid of neither. They don't have a father in the home. Cops are demoralized. They're pulling back. Their manpower is short. And as a result, you tell a bad guy you're less likely to be caught, convicted, incarcerated, crime goes up. They may be criminals, but they're not stupid. When you say, what do white people do? I mean, this is a country that has struggled mightily to get over its historic racism. There was a civil war. There was a big civil rights movement. This is the only majority white country that's ever elected a black president, let alone re-elected a black president. The three biggest cities in America are New York, Chicago, LA. They all have black mayors, even though no city has a majority of black population. The president of Harvard is a black female. And now we act as if Barack Obama never even got elected. And we're still talking about systemic racism. It's not fair. It's wrong. And you're discouraging black people from working hard. 1990s.
Okay. Mr. Elder, quick question.
First off, I don't know who's talking there, but you do not cut off an elder. Don't. That's very, very disrespectful. You're going to bring curse on yourself. Don't. You listen when an elder is talking. You listen and you ask questions. Don't try to interrupt him so you can argue with him, because this interview seems more of like an interrogation. What's all this nonsense about, man? Dude is 70-something years old. Be quiet when he's talking. This is someone with so much wisdom. Shut up. You might learn something. They say when an elder dies, like a library is burnt down. You sit down, pick his brain, and see how you can learn, impact yourself positively from what he's saying. Don't let him finish his. Don't interrupt him. Oh man, there is this African proverb that what an elder sees while he's sitting down, a young person cannot see it even if he climbs the highest mountaintop. You shut up. We have no respect for elders no more. Dude's even got elder in his name. Shut up. Listen.
Let's just remove the word racism, since that seems to be a word that
Who is this one? Where is the other girl, Angela Yee?
triggers, a conversation down the water hole. Let's just focus on the word system.
Okay.
You mentioned that the system was the one that discouraged. And again, we have no problem with agreeing that the family, the black family, should certainly has some room for some improvement. But let's just focus on system.
Room for improvement?
System. Well, we're not going to go down that water. We're not going to go down that water hole. Let's get to the question. So the question is,
so dismissive. Can you try and be a little bit respectful, please? Is that so much to ask?
you said that the system encouraged black women to be single mothers, correct?
I said the welfare state.
Not just black women. Everybody. The welfare state. The people at the bottom.
State, yes.
The welfare, the system. So who's in charge of the system? Who's in
Here we go again. It's white people.
charge of the system?
Well, it was Democrats that passed it.
And who were Democrats? Were they black or white at that time?
Well, at the time, majority of black people were Democrats, as the majority of black people are Democrats now.
Not the voters. I'm talking about the system. Remember the main ideas.
Again, don't argue with an elder. Listen. So, we have a long way to go as a people. A long way to go.
The word system. Who was in charge of the system at the time? The Democrats at the time. The system. I'm just going to Charlamagne's point about white or black. Was it white Democrats in charge of the system or black Democrats in charge of the system?
Well, if you're prepared to say that Lyndon...
I have to say this. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. People are going to hate me for this, but I just got to say this, man. I have to. There's no such thing as black culture, white culture. White, black, yellow. These are just corporate designation. Oh, my Lord. The modern society we're living in right now, it's not a monarchy anymore. It's a corporate society we're living in. Your president is basically your CEO. The national anthem is your company music, your company's theme music. The flag is your company's logo. When you walk in a big factory, all the workers are separated into different colors that relates in relation to what they do, their role in that company. Different colors. Red coat, blue coat, white coat, same thing. Black people, separating them into class. Black people, white people, brown people, yellow people. White people are not white, they're not white like this, or like with my mouse. They're not white like that. Black people are not black. These are corporate designations. Black Americans have to develop a culture, a community building culture. We can't build a community off degeneracy.
And Johnson did this viciously with an intent to destroy the black family. I disagree. He did it with the best of intentions. And if you look at the New York Times, which is left wing, the Washington Post, which is left wing, they cheered all of this.
Right, and what I'm asking was it white people? So I'm going to ask again in case my mic's not coming through clearly. Was it white?
Don't be condescending. Stop it.
White people in charge of the system or black people in charge?
Someone brought up with a strong masculine man in the house as a father figure wouldn't speak to an elder the way this girl is right now.
Charge of that system.
You can tell.
System that helped break down the black family. It's a simple yes, just a simple question: white or black?
Well, you didn't have to go on welfare unless you voluntarily chose to go on welfare. The inducement was put there by Democrats, by the left.
Correct. Okay. White Democrats.
Most black people were Democrats, and they voted for these white people
Not
too.
voters. I said who's in charge of the system.
Well, who puts them in charge?
Was Lyndon Johnson white or black?
Who put them in
Maybe
charge?
that'll help.
Fine, Lyndon Johnson was white.
Thank you.
Okay, but
what does that solve? Does that solve the problem? Let's go watch it.
If your argument is that the reason he did it is because of racism, then I disagree. He did it because of.
That's not my argument. I just asked you a simple question: was he white or black, Charlamagne?
And Mr. Elder, you said
she is so disrespectful and dumb. These are people that see life from a victim perspective, and they're making lots of money out of it. They're all rich people there. These hosts, they're making a lot of money out of keeping black people victims. That's why immediately, as a black person, you start talking about moving away from a victim mentality and start trying to cultivate a rulership mentality, a solution-oriented mentality. They look at you like, "Oh man, you're spoiling business for us, man."
You talked about the smash and grabs, right? And I find that interesting because when you see the mass shootings that happen, majority of those people are white males. What do you think about that?
Actually, if you look at the
whites,
percentage,
black, white people, this. Look at the dislike ratio. Look at the dislike. 38,000 dislike. I'm gonna refresh this page and see. I'm sure probably it's even more now.
But if your argument is that the reason he did it is because of racism, then
40,000 dislikes now. Because black people are the majority of people that watch this Breakfast Club nonsense diarrhea station, and even they're waking up. Black people are waking up. They demonize Trump. And now look who's in charge. The person in charge doesn't even know he's president. Imagine you've spent your whole life trying to be a president. Then you eventually became president and don't even know you're president. Because your brain is like Swiss cheese. They're rolling him out there like Skeletor. The gift that keeps on giving, that dude.
Larry Elder, why would somebody from our community vote for you, or why should they vote for you? Why should a black person vote for you?
Because I'm telling the truth, and the truth oftentimes is unpleasant. It's not pleasant for me to be called the black face of white supremacy, as the LA Times did. It's not pleasant for me to be accused of being anti-black, as Tavis Smiley once called me, because I don't support reparations. By the way, Barack Obama never supported reparations. Nobody called him anti-black. We need to talk about what's going on. What's going on is the breakdown of the family. And most of the things we complain about downstream, whether it's crime or whether it's bad schools, the genesis is the breakdown of the nuclear intact family, and we don't talk enough about it.
I know you probably got to go. Have you ever heard the term nigga wake-up call?
No.
It is an incident where a person of color forgets that they are of color and are reminded rather brutally by an unexpected act of racism. Have you ever had any of those?
Oh, brother.
You see the very, very dangerous thing about people that think like this Charlamagne. It's very ironic that he gave himself the name Charlamagne, but he's an idiot. People that think like this, you think they have the mindset that every black person should think the same, talk the same, just be a monolith. If you don't support Democrats or you don't support a certain way, certain lifestyle, like maybe you don't like hip hop music or something, that means you're not black enough. They question your blackness. Pointless and stupid arguments. You should try and have like an intellectual conversation with this man, rub minds. But you're here trying to do a gotcha interview. Interrogation. A nigga wake-up call. Man,
Find rather brutally by an unexpected act of racism. Have you ever had any of those?
Oh, brother.
I'm just asking. You think you've ever
Well,
had
I'm acutely aware, Charlamagne, that I'm a black person, just as you are a black person. And when Joe Biden insulted you by saying, you ain't really black, you don't know whether or not you want to vote for me or vote for Donald Trump, it seems to me that should have been a wake-up call on your part. How dare this guy come in here and insult you, a black man, and tell you got to think a certain kind of way?
But I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
Yep, I remember that very, very clearly. And again, Hillary Clinton came on this same show and they asked her how she can win the trust of black people considering her track record. And she was talking about she uses hot sauce in a chicken or something. Like she's got hot sauce in the bag. Some nonsense like that. This is madness. The same Hillary Clinton that said, what's his name? The man, Bird. What's that man? like the president or the grand wizard of the KKK or something. When he passed away, Hillary Clinton went to the funeral and did like a eulogy for the man, and said how she looked up to the man or something like that. Those are the real racists. This Breakfast Club is dumb.
How dare this guy come in here and insult you, a black man, and tell you you got to think a certain kind of way? I'm amazed that you weren't mad about that.
I'm not gonna say it upset me, just like I'm not letting you upset me. You know.
Because it's not upset about that, because they pay them. They're on the payroll. They're only having conservatives on now because black people are starting to realize, like, look, we've been taken for a ride by these Democrats. We need to start looking into the Republicans a little bit more and see if they've got like a better choice for us. So that's why they are deciding. They see where the wind is blowing. So that's why they are like trying to start bringing conservatives on. But even when they bring them on, they're just trying to do gotcha interviews, interrogations. Man, shut up. You want your people to remain in the Democratic plantation because you're in the payroll. And these people, man, I can't stand them.
But what I did say,
well, you just not talk about a nigger wake-up call, and it seemed to me that should have been a wake-up call on your part to have a white guy come in here who also said, by the way, about Mitt Romney, because he didn't want to put more regulations on Wall Street, going to put y'all back in chains. And Joe Biden has lied for decades about his civil rights record, claiming that he desegregated movie theaters and restaurants in Wilmington, Delaware, when he didn't do any of that. He lied and said that he tried to visit Nelson Mandela during apartheid South Africa. He did not. And he came in here and told you aren't even black.
You didn't know Joe Biden single-handedly defeated Goliath? You didn't know that? You didn't know that? You didn't know if Joe Biden was the captain on the Titanic, he wouldn't have hit the iceberg? You didn't know that, right? You didn't know Joe Biden. He does talk nonsense. He can't. This is someone that said he graduated like top of his class or something. Come to find out, dude was at the bottom of the class. He talks trash. Now I can't even talk anymore. He just mumbles now. Blah, 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 blah. That's the president now.
It seemed to me that should have been a nigga wake-up call for you, but it wasn't, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, no, for the record, I'm not a Democrat or Republican.
I didn't say you were.
Yeah, I think both.
I don't know what you are. I never even asked you about your party affiliation. Yeah, I'm just saying but you are black. And to have a white guy come in here and tell you have to say think a certain kind of way, otherwise you, quote, ain't black. Wow. I'm going to vote for Donald Trump if I want to vote for Donald Trump. And if I want to vote for Donald Trump, it does not make me not black. 20% of black men, as I said, voted for Donald Trump in 2020. Are they not black now? So only 80% of black men walking around are really black, 20% are not because they voted for Donald Trump. How insulting is that? How condescending is that?
I mean, you're probably right, but I didn't think it.
He's right. Not you probably right. Blah, 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 blah.